Monday, May 15th, 2017, meeting for please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and love
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Roll call.
Commissioner Silva?
Here.
Commissioner Jackson? Absent. Commissioner Kuzma?
Here.
Commissioner Blake?
Here.
Commissioner Roderick? Absent. Commissioner Evans?
Here.
President Chekowitz?
Here.
Commissioner Jackson?
Here. I just have to make an announcement. We have a commissioner absent this evening. I understand you're not. There's only one of us on the ballot, and we chose to show up. I just have an issue with that.
That was good information.
The audience needs to know that.
It's an unexcused absence. Okay, I think that should be made part of the record.
There was no executive session held this evening. So, citizens to address agenda items. Let's see what we have here. Cindy Rhodes on sewage. We can do that because we have Sandy here tomorrow. So, Cindy?
You want me to speak now?
Yeah.
Originally, the person I wanted to address isn't here, but I'm going to ask some questions and make a couple comments. And my question is I've been involved with Invenergy and fracking, I've lost track of sewage. So what I don't know is that the payment that is being made, is that a normal payment, or is that part of the penalties and interests? And are we still paying penalties and interest? And since we only have 3 minutes, I'd like to talk, and then maybe you can answer my questions. I am well aware of the fact that the sewage negotiations started way back in the early 2000s. A friend of mine was part of the authority at that time. I also know that then eventually that negotiation, that contract was signed. I then know that in progression, that Mr. Sachs, Commissioner Saxon, who is my commissioner, by the way, and Gino, when they were in charge, they created a new sewage authority, and then that was deemed to be illegal. What my question is to the gentleman that chose not to be here today is that and I think it should be on the record, in February of 2016, I had called the municipal authority, the municipal building. I needed the answer to a question. They answered the question, however, Mr. Roderick chose to return my phone call. In that phone call, he repeatedly said that his mission as being president of the Commissioners Board was that he wanted to make sure that the sewage issues that were created by Mr. Saxon and Gino and that illegality, he wanted to make sure that they were resolved. I understand that in that term, while he was there, we got a new engineer, so things were stalled. And by the time he left, nothing was changed. We were still battling about what this authority was all about. Yet in February 16, he promised that that was going to be addressed and that was going to be resolved. I do understand that I did not receive one, but I understand this weekend the letters were sent to certain people, and I don't know if it was the whole township, if it was certain wards, that the commissioner who is not here had written a letter and was reiterating all of the issues that he promised to resolve with me on the phone that were created when Mr. Saxon and Gino were president and vice president. What I feel bad about is that if he didn't correct the situation, he's putting blame on Mr. Saxon and still blaming Mr. Saxon for something that he was also complicit about. When I looked at the letter, none of that was described. It was just all things regarding to Commissioner Saxon. What I did want to ask the person who is not here is why he is not taking responsibility for the sewage situation to still be in chaos. I also wanted to ask him what his relationship was with Invenergy, because we've all heard the rumors that we're getting the newest sewage authority, we're getting a tap-in, but yet, as he promised he was going to do that very quickly to resolve that, things still weren't resolved, and they slowed down during his term. So, is there that relationship there? And I do not know if any of you know that there was a meeting that took place in a room next to the zone when they were having their, what do they call it? The zone was having their meeting, their regular meeting. That he was having a meeting with the attorney, Mr. Excites, one-on-one, next to the meeting room where they were having. So what is that involvement? I think that we, as you as the commissioners, and we really need to know as to why it is that all these things are still happening with the sewage authority. I'm not putting any blame on any one person because there's a lot of people involved. Yet he, in meetings and in that letter, continues to blame Mr. Saxon, and I don't think that he should take total responsibility for that. Unfortunately, he's not here to address my questions, but I still think that they should be on record that at some point need to be addressed.
I agree with you, and unfortunately, I can't speak for him. So
I understand that.
But
Another question you can ask is, in 2014, when that board was created, you can go back and look at the minutes. I believe the commissioner isn't here tonight, also supported the creation of that board.
I absolutely agree with you.
And I just want to be clear too, that you keep saying illegality. That board was not illegal. It wasn't that the board was illegally created. That wasn't.
No, it wasn't illegally created, but was it not deemed?
It wasn't renewed. Yeah,
Okay.
they didn't renew it. What ended up happening is, instead of creating it, and this has no bearing on Commissioner Saxon.
I agree.
Mr. Francione, it doesn't really have a bearing on the
No.
commissioners at all. It was really a technical issue. But what happened is, instead of creating a new authority, at the time they wanted to get the sanitary issues involved, they decided to move the sanitary operations into an existing authority, one that had already been in existence at the time, and was really it was kind of defunct, I guess, but really it was still an active authority. And so they decided to move those operations into there. The problem was that authority is at the end of its life, so every 50 years you have to renew it, and it did not get renewed. So that's what happened there.
I
Yeah.
knew that there was an issue, I didn't know.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that like nobody gets the impression that Commissioner Saxon or
Didn't mean that. If
President
that's the
Fiona
way
at
it
the
came
time,
out,
yeah,
that's
did
what I
anything
think
in that way. So that, yeah.
Am I permitted to speak because I want to correct you? It was not an illegal authority, but it operated illegally. It operated illegally. And we had 3 solicitors,
Okay,
none of whom came to the front to stop it. 3 solicitors,
Okay.
not one. And people who were here knew I spoke every meeting saying that we were operating illegally, and we did pay a lot of fines. There's nothing in here in this tonight in the bill list that is for a fine by the DEP. But I've just found out recently, and I don't think this board, everyone's aware of it, that we are still being fined. They're just not.
they haven't
I
said no
don't
yet.
charge that's probably not the right word. And nobody has spoken against this any more than me. Maybe some as much, but not anymore. And I think there's people that need to be held accountable because sewage. Unfortunately, we did have a 537 plan that was approved, and they were stopped. And they needed to do a few things. We started over for the 3rd time.
and now that Mr. Saxon brought that up, did you remember in that conversation that I had with the person that is not here, he agreed that he agreed with what you were doing at the time? that he did that, and then all of a sudden he changed, and he promised that he would very quickly resolve that, and it was not resolved in that period of time. And I think that we need to know as to whether or not, why it wasn't under his regime, why it wasn't resolved, especially when he made a promise to me that it would be done very quickly.
Are you saying that there was information sent out on the sanitary? Some
There
mail?
was a letter that I did not receive, but I have got a copy of that letter. It was regarding some of the things that happened when Paul was dealing, I don't understand all of that, but that was under when you were still in charge, correct? Some of those transactions.
Yeah.
So, but nowhere in there that I could read, it said that under my regime, when I was the president, that this issue was still ongoing. There was none of that said, and that is very unfortunate that he didn't own up to that. And I think that we need to know what is going on with Invenergy, if that has anything to do with that slowdown and why he was meeting with Mr. Zaitis would be a good thing to ask.
And this is further down, I will tell you, it isn't something I haven't said to them. I'm just as upset that we're here 3.5 years later and we're in the same position we were when I started, and I was highly upset then. As Dawn said, 3 solicitors, 2 engineers here and down there. I'm not in the sewage business. I wish I knew more on the engineering side or the legal side. We have to lean on these people for our.
Absolutely.
For where
And
we're
that's what I
going
said,
with
I'm
this.
not.
All I care about now is that we get this thing done.
We get it resolved, and I wasn't putting you under the, I was
No,
going by the
hey,
procedure.
I'm a big boy. I'm just as responsible, if nothing else, even more, because here I am 3.5 years later, and I'm just as upset as anyone else that we're in the same position we were then. And this dates back to 2008.
Yes, it
So
does.
it really irritates me that we're almost 10 years later, and we're still no closer. And again, at this point, let's get it done, whatever it takes. I wish private business would come in and offer us to buy it, because private business loses money, they get things done. We unfortunately as politicians, and I hate to use that word, but we are using other people's money. And that's the problem that really bothers me. And we need to get it done. There's no ifs, ands, or buts, but I can honestly say I think that we're at least moving in the right direction.
And my issue was that he spent an hour with me on the phone telling me he was going to get it done and did not get it done. And unfortunately, things do happen, but there's been other things that have been going on also. So, I just think that
That's just
since.
part of the list.
Yes, I think that since the letter was sent out by him, that it needed to be addressed.
He actually sent out a letter saying,
Yes.
Yes, more than one letter gone, and that's
I was
not what I'm here to talk
understanding
about.
first.
You know,
I just didn't see any of it.
I was referring to the letter that was sent out regarding Mr. Saxon, that it was dealing with all of the issues that he created, but yet he did not speak about his own.
Excuse me, who was the letter addressed to?
Resident.
I didn't see that.
Yes.
You got a separate letter from Ron?
I did not get one. I had a list of constituents that dropped them off at my house and said, here, I don't want it, we need it.
You're telling me the letter was sent to the resident?
Yes.
Yes.
And I am in his court, and I did not get that, I didn't get a letter, period. Yeah, I didn't get a letter, I saw it, I saw it I saw it on social media.
It's pretty tough to follow what's happening, but it's gonna be done. Order it now, and whoever has done anything out here, not only the one shovel full of dirt, I think that's the
You're
first
right.
time I've ever seen
I
that.
refuse to use it anymore because I used it and I refuse to use it because I'm part of the problem. And that's,
Okay,
that's.
so,
But I do feel bad that he's not.
Let me
here
say
to
this,
address
nobody's
this
got
question.
more disagreements than Paul and I.
That's-
But I'll say that, he got some bad information, that doesn't excuse it. But he's had, from what I can see, he's had a change of position. Like Paul.
I want to get it done. At this point, we gotta stop looking behind us and get this thing
And
done.
get it done.
However,
But I'm also human, and I'm also gonna tell you that I'm part of the problem. and I'm not afraid to say that.
Well,
But you're not the only,
No,
you're not the
I
only
can't
part of the
control
problem.
everyone else. Just say what
There's no one
I
here.
can't control
Yes,
every response.
and when I looked at that letter, that was specifically responding to you. And that is part of the reason that
he
I
was
wanted
named in
to
the letter.
address.
All was named.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Absolutely. But if you don't answer my other question, we still are making,
I understand, I don't know the exact, because
Yeah.
we just found this, I just found this out.
The fines are
We
built
thought
in.
the fine, and this, I'm sure, correct me, Mr. Roderick said the fines were finished. Am I fairly accurate on that?
Yes.
The fines were over, and I'm not gonna get, the person can identify himself if he chose, but if I found out that the fines are not over, and I don't know how they're handling it, but we are still being fined.
okay?
We've
More
already paid
lies.
$250,000, but I do think there are people here who not only gave advice, but bad advice, that need to be held accountable, because we had an approved plan. And
Yes,
I've
we
been
did.
preaching that for
More
years.
than one time.
Yeah, and some people got some real bad advice because there was some self-interest involved in it. And they need to be held accountable. For right now, the estimate on monthly fees may possibly double than it was when this plan was approved.
And I can understand that, and that was part of
Other
the
than Mr.
reason.
Kosha, I think I know.
That was
much
part of
about
the
it.
reason that I was concerned, because I pretty much was given that information on the phone call that happened over a year ago with him, that was all gonna be resolved, and it still is not resolved. And one of my questions is that because of the other things that are going on, that there's that reason? I don't know, but
That's an excuse, not a reason.
Mr. Coons, thank you very much for that clarification. I'm pretty picky about the words that I use.
If you need anything as far as information goes that I can provide you,
No,
it's
I
fine.
know the
Executive
process
session.
that happened, it was just my fault.
It's very confusing, trust me, it took a while for myself to
I used
understand.
that word not correctly, and thank you.
I just,
for
like I said, I just
doing
want to make clear that.
that. That's
that
okay,
I'm
thank
wrong.
you for your time, thank you.
And I can tell you that if Mr. Roderick tells you the sky is blue outside, I suggest you go outside to check.
Hi.
And that's wrong
And that was the reason why I wanted to ask some of those questions. You know, I have had some issues because we've been this far apart in how things should be and what's going on, but you have never lied to me, ever have lied to
I
me.
won't start today.
Okay, Frank Sabolsik, account temporary.
Hello. Yeah, I have some issues, nothing against Ms. Hastings, but why are we hiring an account temp when we have a secretary that is on payroll making almost $50,000? She has not been here for, as far as I can remember, last 3 meetings, she's not been here. She has not been present in the township building. I remember from last meeting that there was a comment made by the commissioners that we had to bring an outside firm in to get into our own computers. So now we're wasting more money by bringing in a temp that help, and nobody, believe me, Joelle should have all the help that she needs because she's phenomenal. She gets things done in this town. That's what we need as a manager, not what we have.
And that's personnel and I can't comment.
My next thing is, listening to all this and seeing that a certain commissioner is not here tonight, we as the residents asked for an investigation into Mr. Rogers. Back when he was president of the board, of all his backdoor hiring, backdoor meetings, and unethical activity. We asked the board tonight to make a motion to bring an outside firm to investigate him. Well, we want the investigation, and we want it on the record that the investigation will be brought against Rob Rock.
Probably something that's better discussed by this board in executive session first, is the only thing I can think of. You know,
Why? I'm
It
sorry.
hasn't been discussed, just because you're bringing it up.
I agree with you, Matt,
You know,
on
and
that,
I
that
don't
it
even
needs to be
understand all the
discussed.
facts myself. I'd like to look at what the
Yeah.
claims are, you know what I mean?
I
At
know-
least get some guidance, you know,
Right,
myself.
I know for a fact certain people that filed ethics complaints against him, they disappear. It has nothing to do with this board,
Yeah.
but when they're filed, they disappear.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the ethics
Yeah.
commission though, but I mean, I can certainly, I'd like to maybe discuss this with the board.
He's wasted all our money on hiring people illegally, doing different things. He's wasted our money, let's use our money for good and get rid of him.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna go to the agenda now, and then I will give everybody else an opportunity.
Carol, did you sign it?
Yeah.
She's gonna go after.
Oh, okay.
Okay, resolutions, motion to adopt resolution 2017-15 for the participation in Allegheny County's Community Development Block Grant Program and the Home Investment Partnership for the next 3 federal fiscal years beginning July 1st, 2018 and ending June 30th, 2021. Motion? Second. Question on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, so ordered. Motion to adopt a resolution designating John Snelson as the applicant's agent for disaster ER 4149. So moved.
Second.
Question on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, so ordered. A motion to approve the general fund bill warrant dated May 15th, 2017 in the amount of $191,025.33.
So moved.
Second.
Second, I'll gain one.
Question on
Thank
the
you.
motion? Roll call vote.
Commissioner Simula?
Yes.
Commissioner Saxon?
Yes.
Commissioner Kozma?
Yes.
Commissioner Blake?
Yes.
Commissioner Evans?
Yes.
President Beckles?
Yes. Motion to approve the sanitary fund bill warrant dated May 15th, 2017 in the amount of $128,538.93. So moved.
Second.
Question on the motion? Roll call vote.
Commissioner Simula?
Yes.
Commissioner Saxon?
Yes.
Commissioner Kozma?
Yes.
Commissioner Blake?
Yes.
Commissioner Evans?
Yes.
President Beckles?
Yes. Motion to approve bond requisition number 48 in the amount of $36,329.07.
Madam President, I would like to, and we seem to always be behind the horse instead of in front of the horse. I would like to arrange a meeting with our engineer to get a projection on what we spent so far for the 3rd time, and what we're going to spend, and some indication of what the sewer bill is going to be when this is completed. There seems to be a heck of a lot for the 3rd time, duplication of work.
Well, I am gonna call a special meeting, I'm waiting on some information to come through, and when that happens, I am calling a special sanitary, yes, that will happen.
You know, I'm still not satisfied with the explanations we get. You know, we get a list of things for the 6,500. There's no time, nothing, you know, a meeting for some stupid thing. I'll make the motion.
Second.
Question on the motion? Roll call vote.
Commissioner Simula?
Yes.
Commissioner Saxon?
Yes.
Commissioner Kozma?
Yes.
Commissioner Blake?
Yes.
Commissioner Evans?
Yes.
President Beckles?
Yes.
Now, if I may, I'm not finished yet. Since we're talking about money, we talked at our last meeting about a desk. I know that's a trivial item being purchased, but of course, somebody's missing here, but for $1,500, okay? No one on this board, at least 2 weeks ago, remember us agreeing to buy a desk. There's $700 due yet. I need direction, should we pay it? I think we need more answers. Why was it purchased? You know,
The
who
commissioners
authorized
that
it? This
missing-
board didn't authorize it.
The commissioner that is missing this evening was supposed to get some information.
That's right.
He isn't here to answer those questions.
So we'll postpone the pay.
Yeah.
The only thing I didn't like, the comment was made, and this is a serious situation, it was $700. But it was told by the secretary in charge of it not to put it on the bill list. because some commissioners would have a heart attack. They were looking, I know that somebody was looking out for me, but what are you gonna do?
I have a quick question, Donald.
Sure.
You guys were talking about the special meeting and getting everything together. This is like the 5th time you've asked. What are we gonna do to hold our engineering firm accountable? You've asked Brian for the since November
Thank you.
to have this. Why is it not being done? And how are we gonna hold our engineers accountable
Yeah,
for
I'll be
this?
very short. There's a meeting taking place on Thursday. Once I get to see what information I get from that meeting, then I will schedule a special sanitary meeting.
But I'm saying, what happens if, oh, I can't make it, or I don't have that information, which is his favorite answer. I don't have that information, I don't have that information. Oh, Donald, call me tomorrow, we'll schedule a meeting. Oh, Donald, do this. It never happens. What are we gonna do to hold our engineering firm accountable?
Right, those meetings never take place.
Do we start fining them,
Well,
withholding payment? We're not getting the information that we're paying them for.
you can always put it off for RFPs.
It went out for RFP back in December.
Let's do Thursday and see what happens.
Thank you.
A motion to approve the purchase and installation of fencing for the police K-9 office not to exceed $5,475 from the K-9 fund.
So,
Second.
Second.
Question on the motion? Roll call vote.
Commissioner Simula?
Yes.
Commissioner Saxon?
yes.
Commissioner Kuzma?
Yes.
Commissioner Blake?
Yes.
Commissioner Evans?
Yes.
President Beckowitz?
Yes.
Not to interrupt you, but do you ever give a financial report from this K-9 fund?
From
Not
the
you,
K-9
the
fund?
K-9 fund. I've been waiting. I've been here at several meetings. I don't hear any financial report from the K-9 fund.
She's
Just curious.
Isn't Takei in charge? of
Yeah,
that?
usually he comes to the meetings, but I did provide a report earlier in the year on last year's expenditures. That's what your packets.
Which we should have one, just like, especially even more so, seems to be a lot of outside influence, and I agree.
We should have like a monthly.
Monthly report.
You might want to pass that along.
Is there a reason why it comes through? Why can't they just allot the money, it's run through, the done run through? Why doesn't they send the check down? Why do we, because we
I
don't know
just think
what's
they
in
wanted,
it.
us to approve the expenses, whatever it is they expect.
But we need a motion to have like a monthly report, we just have them make the
Tell the chief.
If you want me to start doing that with my other report, I can do that. I can add it in there.
I think the only reason is we're a lot and saying, yes, we're approving it, and
Yeah,
that
we
money's not
should
there
see.
for some reason, or we're.
We need it.
I mean, we don't know what.
We keep it up to date, accounting of it. And, but I did, remember it was asked earlier in the year, I did that one, all our expenditures from last year was in there. If you want me to do a monthly one, I can do that. Since, I mean, we don't know who's gonna be, you know, I'm pretty much gonna be here, I can.
Thanks, Jim. Okay, motion to ratify the hiring of Jennifer Hastings from account temps effective May 2017.
So,
Second. Question on the motion?
I have a question, okay, a couple things. How much are we paying this, agency? What is it, 30, okay, so 30 an hour. And then,
No benefits.
okay, and then to ratify something means that we retroactively pass it, so when was it decided? Because I never got a phone call, like, we normally do a phone call vote. I would have liked to have been included in that.
Okay, everybody was told that one executive session that we were looking to do temporary help. We discussed that.
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed?
I'm opposed.
The ayes have
Is
it.
there a reason that Andrew,
I think it's just too expensive.
what, $29 an hour?
Yeah.
How else are we gonna operate with one person?
Well, when we advertised for.
Fire the other one.
Secretary at $12 an hour, we had like 40 applicants. So just go for one of those.
Well,
People-
Well,
you wanna
unfortunately, you can't
advertise?
violate that.
Yeah, now wait a minute, time out, Andrew. Andrew, give the whole story. If it's $12 an hour, what's the 24,000 and 20,000 in health
Somebody
insurance?
It's part-time. It's part-time.
Yeah.
She didn't walk up to Johnson first.
certainly did.
She was sick.
Oh,
She didn't say she was sick. She said, I've had enough of this place. That's what she said.
It's on the answer first, okay.
You can defend someone that walks off the job. Shame on you.
Claire Bryce, I'm going back to the signage. Hi, my name is Claire Bryce. I was here to speak for the commissioner who isn't here.
Speaking to the mic.
I'm here to speak to the commissioner who isn't here, and I'm gonna address you to it.
Hi, Claire.
Industry Road was supposed to be open on Friday, supposed to be inspected. Election day is tomorrow. For the people that have to come on the other side of the road, they have to go 8 miles out of their way to come to vote. I know you're not running for commissioner this time, but there are judges, there are school board members, there's a treasurer that's running. That's going to inhibit some of those older people because they don't want to drive that far. Nobody seems to care about it. We're gonna worry about $12 and who quit and who didn't. This is our right as Americans to vote. And we're impeding that right to the people who live there. Nobody called, nobody cared. I was down there on Friday trying to find out that I'm nothing. I'm only a citizen. I'm not an elected official.
You're more than nothing.
No, I'm not an elected official. That's your job. And you didn't do it. And I'm not.
What do you want me to do? Call
Oh,
them?
yes.
I already
Did you?
talked to them.
Well, where are they? I talked to them on Friday.
It's all subcontract.
No, I talked to them on Friday and they said that they put it off until Wednesday. I would have insisted had I been in your situation
Well,
that they,
whoever needs to ride the fault, I'll ride them.
that's besides the point, Andrew, that's after the fact. It should have been open. I'm not holding you solely responsible. You're chairman of the Republican committee locally, correct?
Yeah.
Rob is chairman of the Democratic committee. I think as chairman, that's your duty to see that the people are able to get to the polls to vote. And they're not going to be able to do that. I guarantee, if I was running for commissioner in that ward, I would have made sure that that road was open. Neither one of us are running. Rob's running and Glidell Road is open for him. But those people are gonna have a hard time getting to the poll. And I think it was just put on the back burner. No one cared. I was there Friday and I talked to those subcontractors. They said you had to call Pittsburgh. I have no authority to do that. It's just like everything else. It's passed over and let go because it's not important to that particular person at that particular time. I guarantee if Rob was running now and his road was closed, come hell or high water, we would have had Moses parting the Red Sea so that would have been open. And I feel badly about this. I think it's bad. I think it's bad for the voters. A lot of them are older and they cannot get to the poll. And I think that we should have done something, not hindsight, I'm sorry.
Well, I will do everything that I can.
Yeah, call them tomorrow morning first.
I will do
See
it.
if they can't temporarily open it just for a
I'll do
moment.
everything I can.
You can push the barriers aside because that's what I did Friday and I rode over that bridge.
Nobody arrested you.
Nobody arrested.
Good thing I didn't know about it.
Sorry.
Big question.
I did. Because that needs to be addressed. The only thing is an inspection needs to be done. It's done, but all the work is finished.
Finished.
It's finished. The bridge is done, but those little barriers are there. So, okay?
I'll look into that, I promise you.
Okay, just like the general retirement and stuff.
That's not, I get 5 more.
Yes,
Who did you say, you're on the Democratic committee?
yes, I am.
Who did you say is the chairman of that committee?
Rob Roderick.
Oh, I
Commissioner
wasn't
that's
sure
not
because we
here.
haven't
We
had a
haven't had a
meeting
meeting
in
for
a long
3
time.
years. For
Didn't
3
get any
years.
signs or anything to
No,
hand out.
didn't get any poll cards, didn't get any watcher papers, so she said, I want to go into the poll tomorrow to collect. I'm on the committee, but I may not have watcher papers, so if they call to arrest me, I am entitled to go into my poll. I'm letting you know that they call.
That'd be a good day to work on that report, chief.
Okay, Chris Thomas, letter sent.
Good evening. I have some documents I want to give you guys. What this is a letter that was sent out by Mr. Robert Roderick, Commissioner, current Commissioner, to most or many of the residents in Elizabeth Township.
Good luck tomorrow.
seen this letter that came out. Okay, in this letter, it states a lot of misleading facts about me as an individual and a resident, about a youth organization, Elizabeth Ford Youth Athletics, in this letter. Some of the pieces in here, and it has in there that I have a dangerous and deceitful record with tax dollars. I have no access to any Elizabeth Township tax dollars. It also says in this letter that $64,000 was spent of tax dollars for a deck hockey rink engineering. I don't have the authorization to do that. But when you read this, it says that I signed an agreement with Elizabeth Forward, bypassing the board, and without grant funding, he believes that the plan would have cost the taxpayers $500,000 based off of my signature. Because according to this letter, I can bypass the township board, and Elizabeth Forward Youth Athletics could bypass this board. The next thing in this letter, it says that about with the tax dollars, that the Recreation Committee can decide how the tax dollars are put into this.
That bothers me.
Okay, hold on, Mr. There's more to it, Donald. It bothers me a lot too, because I'm a taxpayer resident, and this is totally unfactual whatsoever. And it's going out to people in the community that I represent as Elizabeth Ford Youth Athletics. And these people have done a lot of good work in this community. And they don't have the ability to always come to these meetings, etc. Now also too in here, it says that the expenditures for sanitation. What does a youth organization have to do with the sanitary authority? It says in here that a yearly financial audit from the PA Attorney General had an $865,000 audit and only $60,000 was expensed. What, as a resident, and nothing to do with the sanitary authority, and nothing to do with how the township votes on any type of expenditures whatsoever, has to do with this. Now, and also in this document, it has the engineering bill for the planned deck hockey rink, okay? And it also says in here, it lists my signature on here, basically suggesting that I can have the authorization to do all of the things that I've listed on here. Now, I have some questions for this. Number one, this is slander. As an individual and a resident of this township, I don't have anything to do with this. Elizabeth Ford Youth Athletics and the kids and the coaches have nothing to do with this. This is absolute fabrication and misleading facts. Now, I also gave Mr. Rakunas in here a copy of the field maintenance agreement that's in here. Now, with that being said, Mr. Rakunas, if you can look at that documentation on there. Do you remember that?
I do, I remember meeting with you, yeah.
Yes, you remember meeting with me. Now, the legal preparation for this document.
I prepared it all.
You prepared that document, correct? Okay, so how is it that I crafted it and forced it down the township that I can bypass all of you to spend $64,000, use $865,000 into sanitation? I can go out and spend another $500,000 on taxpayers' dollars when this document has nothing to do with it. Now, conveniently, he pulled everything out of this document except for my signature and put it in and mailed it out to all the residents. For the last 2 days, I've been taking personal phone calls. Our organization has been taking phone calls and emails asking us, how is EFYA able to decide sanitation funds? How is it that EFYA is able to authorize the expenditure of $500,000 of taxpayers' money. How is it that Chris Toma is able to do this? How is it that we are able to actually authorize a check for KLH to pay for all this? Is any of this factual in any way with the Board of Commissioners? And I wish Robert Roderick was here, and this is why he is not here, because he can't answer for this letter out to the township. This is absolute fabrication, and I want answers tonight. And I know he's not here, but I expect the board here to make a decision to put out a 100% official documentation or something, social media, mailers to the citizens and the residents of this township saying that EFYA nor Chris Toma has any of these powers within the township. And I expect a vote tonight, and I expect it to be done
One thing I
tonight.
would say, and again, I respect your position, and I know this is obviously hurtful, and it's, you know.
It's very hurtful. There's a lot of people that, hold on, Matt. There's a lot of people in the FYA, I'm not even talking about myself. There's a lot of people in the FYA that have put dedicated time, and now there's mistrust in the organization leaders in there because of an individual trying to smear another resident. That's wrong.
Yeah, and the only thing I was gonna say is, obviously this was not authorized by this board.
It doesn't say that.
It's not-
It doesn't say that. It's an elected official, Matt. No, hold on. It's an elected official that has put this out. This is not opinion-based. This is factual-based to the residents.
He cites Elizabeth Township meeting minutes, engineers.
This is factual, factual. This is 100% sent out as factual stuff, as the perception, not opinion-based. So I don't want anything else besides that being said, that it looks like this township put this out to our residents.
I'm just saying, I just wanna make clear, not really as much to you, but to all of them, just to make clear that like, this isn't something this board authorized, or that the board, wanted to send out or said, hey, we want you to send this out. I mean, this was an individual acting in an individual capacity. So, in as much as there's things in here that you believe, might have some implications.
And
you know, that-
I don't know how many of you
I would
like
agree with you if he didn't write Commissioner Rob Roderick.
Yeah.
And he would have said Rob Roderick.
I agree. Well, that's what I'm saying, is this
That's the
board,
second time he's done that in the past
Okay.
couple
I'm
of
just
years.
saying, this board didn't authorize this.
I take offense to this because my name's in here. I have nothing to do with Rob Roderick's election. My name's in here. Claire Bryce, your name is in
Well,
here.
my name has been on a lot of times. I was the biggest thief in Elizabeth Township until it came out that I didn't take any money. Nobody ever
There
said it
are
was sorry.
individuals,
And you can take it to the bank.
Joanne,
Who's gonna give
it is
response?
implemented, well, it needs to be response by the township tonight. A actual official announcement
Do I have a motion?
by
to
them.
send
And I would like an announcement, I want it in the paper, I want a mailer, and I want it on social media. And I don't care about this election. This is the name of the individuals of EFYA that have done that, that put their time and effort into this. And to put politics and children together are bad. And I will never ever do that. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is to defend them. Now, also, my name is listed in here, and I'm gonna be honest, it's very upsetting. My wife and I dedicate all of our time, every free moment, to the people in this community and the children of this community. Now, I would like on official record, and you guys say yes or no, okay, on these questions. Did EFYA or Chris Toma bypass Elizabeth Township Board of Commissioners on December 15, 2015 to authorize payment on behalf of Elizabeth Township for $64,000 to design a deck hockey rink?
No.
No.
Let me ask you, 64,000 was?
It was. Did I bypass the commissioners and make that
I
payment?
didn't even know you.
Okay, exactly. So I didn't bypass that and pay,
No.
and make you guys pay KLH. Okay, good. Did EFY or Chris Toma bypass Elizabeth Township Board of Commissioners to authorize KLH Incorporated on behalf of its client, Elizabeth Township, to design a proposed deck hockey rink on the Chapel Drive totaling around $500,000?
No.
Chris?
No.
Okay. Alright. In 2016 or 17, has EFYA received funding from maintenance agreements signed in November of 2015 with Elizabeth Township that wasn't approved by the majority of the commissioners?
No.
Read that again, please, Chris.
Okay. In 2016 or 17, and it's only existed 2 years, so it's 2 years, the EFYA. Did EFYA or Chris Coma have anything, did they receive any funding from the field maintenance agreement signed in November 2015 from Elizabeth Township that wasn't approved by the majority of the Board of Commissioners?
No.
Did EFYA or Chris Toma have anything to do with the former sanitary authority or the PA State Attorney investigation of expenditures that Rob turned over in his letter stating over in November 21st, 2016 for expenditures that were never voted on or never approved by the Township Commissioners? Where yearly financial audit revealed a sampling of 865,000 and only 60,000 was justified. Do I have, EFI or Elizabeth Township Youth Athletics have anything to do, but let me get my answer. Do I have anything to do with any type of expenditures with the sanitation authority?
No.
Let me just say this, in all those 2 years or 2.5 years that I complained, there's people.
I don't care about complaints.
No,
Hold on,
let me ask you that.
let me finish, because I don't want to hear about that. I'm mad. I love you, but I'm mad. Hold on. I don't care about that. I just want to clear my name and Elizabeth Ford Youth Athletics. Now, based on these statements about this letter sent by the elected commissioner to various residents, I ask that an official statement from Elizabeth Township be sent out clarifying EFYA and Chris Toma's roles in the following: expenditures for design of deck hockey rink on Chapel Drive, possible expenditures for construction of a deck hockey on Chapel Drive. All expenditures issued to EFYA has never bypassed the commissioners or were approved by the Board of Commissioners, and all expenditures, decisions, or anything else with the sanitary authority and any investigations by the PA State Attorney General on the sanitary authority have nothing to do with Elizabeth Ford Youth Athletics or Chris Toma.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Question on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, sir.
All right, will that be done today? I want it done today. I want it out there today for tomorrow.
I think we should put our social media sites that way.
Social media and then a mailer out there. That was wrong. It should go to every single resident. Because it's been all over Facebook. It's been all over the media. I've taken calls saying that I spent $500,000 of taxpayer money, and I don't have any authorization for
You have to
that.
understand, somebody's running scared.
I don't care. That's wrong. Mr. Roderick was 100% wrong on all of these statements in here. Is that correct, commissioners?
Yes, that's why he's.
Is that correct, commissioners? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, if somebody sitting on this board does this to an organization that has done nothing but good for the youth of this community, shame on him.
I agree with you 100%.
Yes.
I do want to say, unfortunately, I did not get the letter that was sent about my commissioner in time to print it out. It was somewhat similar to, I read both letters.
Yeah.
So it was copy paste to be very defaming without giving the whole story. I do recommend that the letter that was sent about him somehow get in all of the commissioners' hands, because it didn't tell lies that I saw, it just did not tell the whole story, which is the reason why I wanted to get those bits and pieces put together.
good thing for me, Cindy, is that it was sent by someone who is credible. If it was someone credible, I would look, but it's not even worth my time or the folks to read my response, to give a response.
I agree, but I still think somewhere, Paul, that should be, that document should be here as part of the record in regards to what we were speaking about.
Megan?
I have a question for what's the recourse for this board for a commissioner to send out something like this?
And naming other.
Let's say Donald Simolo, I don't know, I send something like this. Of course, there'd be a few people want to hang me, but that's okay. Now, what's our recourse?
If this was a job, he'd be suspended and fired. If you were an
Absolutely,
employee,
absolutely.
he would be suspended and fired.
It's a little bit different, Colin, just because there's a couple things involved. That's why I was trying to be clear, like, what was done in an individual capacity. So if there's any cause of action, in my opinion, it would be individual. It's not, I'm here to protect the township. I don't represent anybody individually, as you know.
Did he
So-
sign this as a
I
commissioner
understand.
of the township, not a candidate, not
But
a.
if he did authorize it as a commissioner, there's laws out there that have to be looked into, like there's something called high public official immunity, okay? And high public official immunity gives public officials,
Unbelievable.
I don't wanna say like the ability to just go out and defame people, but there's
That's what he
That's
does.
there's case law out there that allows public officials
You
to
get
go.
more protection than the
Way
average.
more protection than an individual does. So those things would have to be taken into account.
What's my option for my name being in here?
Yeah, that's something I'll have to look at with you. I don't know.
Did he sign, Paul, did he sign the letter, a commissioner? That's what I thought. I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Wait, Paul, I have it right
What
here.
it's in there is so that you could bypass the commissioners and vote any way you wanted, so that it couldn't go before the board.
Well, I actually voted no
Paul,
for this.
and Chris,
Just on
and
record.
former commissioner.
He can do whatever he wants in here, check the minutes.
I know that, I know that. I know that.
If there's anybody sitting on this board that had any reason to vote yes, it was me, because my grandson is an ice hockey player. And that ice rink would have been.
Which is fine, I had nothing to do with the
No.
ice rink, so whatever you guys decided, that's fine.
And I can only hope that he does get fired tomorrow.
So two things real
I would
quick.
I would call for a fire, if it can be done, it should be done.
All right, so two things real quick, if you are going to put anything out there on social media, what have you, to clear Mr. Thomas' name and EFYA's name, I would really appreciate that the same thing be done for me. I know that there was a letter circulated also with my name in it. Now, I did handle that privately with each of the commissioners, and you as well, Matt. But if you're going to put something out there publicly, since it did go to a large majority of residents, I would definitely appreciate that being done. And second, if you are thinking about sending out a mailer, is there any way to charge Mr. Roderick for I mean, I'm just saying that I don't think us taxpayers should have to put the bill for his mistakes again.
Yeah, look, I mean, there's things called surcharges, but I don't know the applicability on something like this. This is very different, because usually surcharges apply to like actions of the entire board. Like this, like I said, I'm not saying what's done was right. All I'm saying is
No, I
it's
gotcha.
an individual action. I'm here.
I
to
wanna
protect
make
the
sure
board,
that,
so,
you
you know, I don't know.
vote, you send out a mail that corrects them.
Right. No, so if there is any way, then, I think that it should definitely be looked into, as far as whether he can be charged for the mailer, if you wanna send it out. All right, thank you.
The answer to the question is that Frank referenced to me the letter that went in regards to Mr. Saxon is signed sincerely, Rob Roderick, Commissioner Rob Roderick typed underneath. So he did write that letter as a commissioner.
Okay, Carol Bailey.
Right, I appreciate you giving me the time to think about this again.
Carol and Mike.
I know how difficult it is, it doesn't happen too often when you come here and, for another set of problems. But this thing just won't die.
Carol, you can have a couple extra minutes.
Okay, well, I thought it was cut down to 3. Invenergy has filed,
Invenergy has filed for a rezoning curative amendment along with a $500 fee, which is pretty cheap because other places charge $15,000.
Carol, real quick, it wasn't a curative amendment, it was at planning, just so you're clear. There's
Okay.
different procedures that apply when it's a curative amendment.
Okay,
They asked-
well,
They
it's
just
a-
did a straight request for zoning change, so, go ahead.
Okay, all right. This rezoning amendment application is not readily available for the public to read and research. It is not on the Elizabeth Township website, and it was not handed out at the planning committee meeting for the public to read. Why hasn't the public have access to this written amendment? Has anyone here read it? And it's a 3-pager. As requested by Attorney Siddick in his letter to the township, Invenergy was to present their text amendment on the April 19th Planning Committee agenda. They had one shot, one time to present the rezoning amendment, to explain to the public what it is and how it fits into the goals for the community planning. Just that written application was to be discussed. Did they do that? No, they didn't. Instead, they presented a proposal for a power plant, as though the amendment was already accepted, voted, and implemented into the township codes. They verbally presented to the public the results of the amendment, but not the amendment. During this unauthorized presentation, the salesperson, who's not the owner of the company, he's not the electric grid, he's not an engineer, he's not a scientist or an attorney, alluded to ideas and promises that are not true. The salesperson is trying to devalue the property and the surrounding properties in several ways. It has labeled the property as a brownfield. Only the DEP has the authority to designate a brownfield. And the only brownfield in this area is located in McKeesport, and you all know nobody goes to McKeesport. It has stated that the property is currently used as a scrap yard and as a junk yard. Invenergy signed an agreement. It's a land auction agreement, not an equitable agreement, as Siddick said. And since then, they are now legally responsible for that scrap yard. Now I want to know, have they filed for an application or a permit for a scrap yard? Have they filed papers for occupancy, trailers, storage of trailers, and motor vehicles? When the neighbors complained about the noise and explosions, the commissioners asked the police and the code officer to investigate. Did they? And what were their findings? Because you should go up there and see what's up there. Invenergy was to present the text amendment to the public. When Invenergy failed to do so, the chairperson of the planning committee did not halt Invenergy's verbal presentation. None of the planning committee members asked questions regarding the rezoning amendments. How does this protect property values? How does this comply with our decision to promote reusable energy? No questions were asked about the amendment itself and how it would affect the township. It comes attached with an agreement, a written one, to draw the appeal on the Fiore property. And this has the potential to sway votes for it, especially for any of those committee members living in the Buena Vista Mount Vernon property area. Because Invenergy has not fulfilled its requirement to review that ordinance and only that ordinance, and because the public was not made aware of this ordinance, there's nothing written, there's nothing, you can't get it unless you file a right to know. I fear any further discussion, any hearings following that, and any vote conducted by that planning committee will be futile, and most definitely will be skewed. It will be a waste of taxpayers' money, time, and to prevent any further action by that planning committee that will only become more confusing because one thing should have been presented and another thing was presented. I'm asking for a motion to be made to remove that Invenergy application for rezoning, remove it from the planning committee, and bring it back to the commissioner's authority.
Carol, can I just explain, I think you're a little bit confused about the process. So, that meeting that you came to, that was well attended, by the way, was only, that was only the first part. We only heard public comment at that meeting, so as far as the discussion.
No, they had one shot. If it was on the agenda that they were to present that amendment.
So it's.
And if it's not on the agenda, what happens, people? You can't talk.
No.
But it was, they did not present that amendment.
These meetings are always advertised for general business purposes, but I don't want to get into those nuances.
No.
What I'm saying is, here's what I'm saying.
No, they presented something that everybody thinks is going to be voted on. They didn't see the amendment.
I understand that, but the only thing we did at that meeting, the only thing that happened was public comment. Okay, because I knew this public comment was going to be substantial. I knew there would be a lot of people there that had concerns about the plan, for and against, okay? So it was decided that that's how we would limit the meeting, so that we weren't there until 1 in the morning, to have public comment and then have discussion, okay? So whether it's at the next meeting or some subsequent meeting, there will be discussion on the ordinance, on the people's comments. See, it's a developing process, okay? And it will come to the board. What happens is, there will be a recommendation ultimately from the planning commission. And whether that ordinance remains the same, whether it's tweaked, whatever happens to it, it will come out of planning at some point and it will come here. Planning is only recommendatory, okay? So their actions don't mean anything like binding wise. Ultimately, it comes here. It's not a curative amendment. Again, I'm being clear on that because there are different time frames that things have to come out of planning when they're curative amendments, okay? This is not. This is just a straight request for zoning change. So it can come out of planning whenever, okay? If it comes out of planning with a recommendation for approval of the ordinance, it will ultimately come here. What will happen is, it will be sent to county planning for review and comment. It will come here for a public hearing. And again, there will be another opportunity for everyone to voice concerns, to address things one way or the other, for Invenergy to provide whatever input they want to provide on it. So, and honestly, I don't think that anything that they provided at that meeting was inappropriate. I thought it was more than appropriate. I think they want to show people what they're proposing to go in there. I don't think you're, you know, if you say you want to change the zoning to allow a power plant, I don't think you're hiding the ball, or you're going to hide the ball on what it is. I think they were trying to show what it was. So I'm just saying, there's plenty of opportunity left through that process, okay? And it will ultimately come here one way or the other.
They had one shot to give that presentation of that
I don't understand what that
amendment.
means, they get one shot.
They get one shot. They
You
were,
said, where is
it
that
was
at?
on the text, it was on that agenda to
Yeah,
give,
and it could be on the next agenda. We've been talking about chickens for.
but they didn't present it. Now everybody thinks because they don't know what the amendment is, they didn't read it.
Well, the next.
They think it's about this power plant. The power plant is the result of
That's
the
right.
amendment. You have to start with the amendment. You gotta start with the ingredients. Then you get the amendment.
Well, but if you don't like the proposed use, then the amendment it's worthless.
You have to read the amendment. You have to.
But if you don't like the proposed use, it's like me saying that I want to,
Then why wasn't it put on the
rezone
agenda
to
in that manner?
Wait, it's like me saying I want to rezone R1 to allow for skyscrapers, and people saying I live in a residential neighborhood, I don't want a skyscraper here. So
But
why
the
would we talk
vote,
about
but
the
the
amendment if you don't want skyscrapers?
the ultimate vote will be on that amendment, correct?
That is
Not
that's
on
right.
the power plant. So why was the power plant presented?
Because you talk about the uses. I'm not trying to like debate you, I'm just trying to say that's how it works.
But the amendment wasn't presented. Not one question was asked about the amendment.
Well, people may comment about it. We didn't get to any discussion on the amendment because, again, we only held per public comment because the public comment was so lengthy. So if you keep coming to planning, there will be future discussions. All of your concerns can be addressed. That's what I'm saying. It's at this beginning of this process, and you're saying you're not happy because there wasn't sufficient time to develop things. When you're only at the beginning of this process, there's a whole series of public hearings and series of things that have to occur and reviews of things that have to occur. I mean, that ordinance, again, even if it comes out of planning, has to go to the Allegheny County Planning, who has to review it and make comment on it. You can go to them. And then it will ultimately come here for a public hearing before it's even voted on. So you're gonna have a public hearing, and then you're gonna have a public meeting where it's voted on. So you're gonna have like there's all these opportunities that people have issues and concerns about it before it's ultimately something.
All right, one other thing is, because on that, it said they will drop that, I mean, it's common sense that they
Yeah,
will
that was
drop
one
it.
of the discussions.
Now, how do we know that if any of the planning committee people up there live in that area aren't gonna be swayed by that? So my suggestion is, why don't you just freeze it and wait until that appeal decision is heard, and then that will remove that.
Well, because.
Why don't you wait?
Because there's a, okay, so, there's a risk, well, there's a
You can
long,
freeze it.
there's a long appellate process, there's a lot of reasons you don't do that, but.
You can freeze it though, you can freeze it, can't you? You can't, you just say, table it for right now until we hear
I mean, it
what
could go
the
into
result
discussion
of the
for
opinion
whenever,
is.
yeah, I mean, it
You
goes-
can say that, correct?
Well,
That
planning.
they have that decision to say that they
That's
can
okay.
table it until after the opinion of the, appeal is given by the judges.
There's reasons that I don't think that would be,
No, I wanna know, can they do it? They can do that, I know they can do that.
You could, theoretically, they can do, planning can keep it and just hold on to it and not do anything with it, theoretically, yes.
Because you have people coming in here that wanna build houses, isn't, that one company coming in and they're going to, build more houses? You have them, what's the name of that company, Brandywine? It was on one of your agendas, but they were supposed to present that.
That was somebody that lives there subdividing another piece of vacant property and adding it to their parcel, that's all.
Now, I have a question. Since they changed and it's not a curative amendment and they did a request for zone change?
Yeah,
Is
they
that-
never made a curative amendment.
Okay,
Yeah.
well.
So
that's-
just so everyone knows,
Okay,
the curative
I
amendment is,
understand.
they're alleging that there's like a constitutional problem with it, there's a legal problem. They say your current ordinance has a problem legally, and so we want to present this amendment to cure your legal problem.
Okay.
So that's not what they've done. They've just come in and said, hey, we'd like for this to happen.
Okay, so my question is, are you decision makers now on Invenergy, or does it have, because it's a zone change, does it have to go to the zone,
No, it won't go to zoning, it'll go from planning recommendation to public hearing with the commissioners to ultimately, a vote by the commissioner, that this board will ultimately.
I just didn't,
Yeah.
when
That's
I
a good
required
question.
that, I wasn't
People
sure
get
that.
confused because when you make a zoning change, it doesn't get heard by the zoning board,
Yes.
it's very strange that that's our process, yeah.
But when is this going to be posted on the website though? So everybody can see how this zoning change is going to affect people that live what? It's not even 1,000 feet away from
But
this
people
thing.
don't care about the zoning change, they care about the power plant, and that's what they were trying to explain, the location, the site
But
thing.
it's the amendment, it's this thing that you're supposed to be presenting,
I
not.
understand that, but it's, again, it
But
goes
why
back to
isn't
the-
it on the website? If it
Well-
was paid for, it should be on the website so everybody can see it and read it and know that
Yeah,
that's
I
what this is
respect that,
about.
but people wanna see it, I don't think anyone
Dawn, I
has a problem.
suggest you
Well, just wait real quick, but just so you know, at the planning meeting, it took it here and out, yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with that, like fundamentally, but just so you know, like pending ordinances are generally not even subject to right to know requests, so they're not public documents, so if we wanna do that, that's okay, but I'm just saying, it theoretically in itself is not a public document, while it's being
But if
discussed.
that's what the vote's about, why isn't it on the site?
And that's what I'm saying, if you come to the meeting and you ask for a copy, I'm sure they would provide you with a copy.
All right, Ray Lawrence.
Is on? Good evening. I was just wondering what the status of the proposed blasting and strip mine is.
So, yeah, I do.
I'm glad you asked that because I have it written down. I understand there's been some literature out there alluding to the fact that the commissioners are in favor of blasting. And I thought at the last meeting, we voted to send a letter to the DEP. And why hasn't that letter been sent?
It has been sent. It's right here. That's what I was just gonna tell him.
When was it sent?
2 days ago.
I didn't get a copy.
Well, I have. In that regard, April, the township received public notice regarding the proposed blasting on property on the northern side of the Millville Road site. I've been asked by the township commissioners to express the township's opposition to the proposed blasting site. The township is deeply concerned about the expansive time periods for blasting and ground vibration issues, as well as possible effects on existing surface issues with the property relating to water runoff. Accordingly, the township believes that blasting activity should be prohibited and/or significantly restricted in order to protect the general public and the residents of the township. So that's number one. Number two, I looked at the docket to try and understand sort of where we were at with this whole thing. Now, it does look to me like there was an original appeal that was filed in 2010, and it went through the Commonwealth Court in an appeal through February 2012, okay? And it looks like the township actually was successful in that appeal, but then in 2012, there was an immediate appeal to the zoning hearing board by Ameripol, alleging that they wanted a variance from the current zoning, okay? And there was a decision that was issued in 2013, August of 2013, which permitted surface mining, it was an agreement to allow them to do surface mining activities on property as long as it occurred within 6 months. So there's a 6-month time frame, according to this, from the start of excavation for all surface mining activities to occur.
There was
That's
no
where I'm at right
blasting,
now.
there was no blasting.
It doesn't mention it one way or the other.
No,
It talks about.
it's not mentioned, it wasn't there.
Well,
That would be my humble.
yeah, they're gonna say when it's not, if it's still surface mining operations, and that's what this all refers to, is it says surface mining activity, so whether or not blasting is, was contemplated at the time, I don't, I'm not 100%.
I would say no, because why would they say it this time?
So the surface mining, was it?
The strip mining.
Strip mining,
Yeah.
was it, that they were allowed 6 months? from
That's
the
what it
date
said.
you mentioned?
It says all surface activity shall be completed within 6 months from the start of excavation. So I don't know, nothing has started over there, I assume, right? So, but they're gonna have 6 months.
I may be able to clarify a little bit of that for you.
What's that?
I may be able to clarify a little bit of that for you.
Okay.
I was over at the DEP's office this past week. The coal company did apply for a permit for blasting, but that was sent back to them as being incomplete, and there has not been any action on it since.
The application was incomplete?
That's correct.
Oh,
Now, the DEP inspector that's handling that, I did have a discussion with him. He tells me that there were numerous phone calls made 2 weeks ago, complaining from the public that they didn't want it, and they will take that into consideration.
But
the letter from the township, I'm sure, will
There was
very well aware
there
of.
was no permit filed in 2012 or 13 for blasting.
They have no permit to blast.
No, they,
Thank you.